iRacing.
The Lotus 49 is something of an oddball car compared to most on iRacing, so it's fitting that they'll wrap up the season at a bit of an oddball track. We return to Charlotte, but this time on the Roval as we get ready to watch round 12 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legend Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Roush Racing driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director Christian Duploy, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Throwing up unpredictable results is happens in both the real and virtual world here, so this is a place that can bite in an instant. Let's take a closer look at it with our track guide. Welcome to Charlotte Motor Speedway. Until a few years ago, most race fans probably didn't know that this track had a road course layout. Thanks to a huge revamp to prepare for NASCAR to race on it, the Roval is now a top-tier facility. Situated in the northeast corner of Charlotte, North Carolina, there's a whopping 6 different road course layouts. They range from just under a mile to a little over 2 miles in length. Like most Rovals, the high-speed banking on the oval portion makes up the majority of the lap length. However, one unique feature that isn't often seen on other Rovals is that this track includes a decent amount of elevation change. Passing is often difficult, and the 2 chicanes on the oval portion are notorious for their unforgiving curbing. Lesser-powered cars find overtakes a bit easier with the slipstream on the banking, but anything with some oomph is going to have to work very hard to get by their rivals. If anything, attrition often rears its ugly head, and simply keeping the car pointed forward and clean will net you a good finish. While the debate rages on among gearheads on whether oval cars should race here, one thing is for sure, it provides some wild action and almost never disappoints the fans in the stands. I know it's a bit divisive for some, Joey, but honestly, on the sim, I think it puts on a really good show.
I love watching these Lotus 49s go around the ovals, and this is exactly what we're going to have here. The Roval configuration at Charlotte. We use the interior road course as well as some of those high banked oval sections. Turn number 1 is actually pretty tricky here. There's a large concrete wall off the driver's right, and it's a massive funnel effect all the way through turn number 2. So let's be careful not to have any big giant pileups there on lap number 1. And then turns 3 and 4, there's kind of a double apex right-hander. Don't go out too far driver's left. The car tends to get kind of washed out over there. And then the apex of 6 and 7 can be a little bit tricky over there because there is just a tiny bit of elevation on the infield. Turn number 8 is always crucial to get the power down because it powers you all the way around what is NASCAR 1 and 2 into that first oval chicane on the back straightaway. And then, of course, nail that exit, avoid those curbs because it is possible to go bouncing up over those curbs. And then that final chicane, Joe, it's a little bit tricky. Kind of a funnel on the second apex, very, very wide open on turn number 16, but you got to be careful about that turn 17 apex.
Certainly, it can bite you, and we'll see a few drivers probably mess that one up on either side, no doubt. Now, as for the championship, well, it was very one-sided this season. Nobody has beat Andreas Valenteus on the track since round 1, and that driver was Jorge Nieva, who's one of the few other drivers to have won so far this season when Andreas hasn't shown up. And it's been an impressive run for Jorge as the next one down, Kevin Verbruggen, only has 3 podiums. So it's been a little bit one-sided. However, there's still battles to fight for here in this last round. Look at Seb Tixier, John Olsen, Gary Ho, And honestly, you can throw in Plumley and Cocky down there, as they're not too far behind. Basically, it's a battle for fourth at the end of this one. So a lot of drivers that are pretty fast typically, Joey, that are going to be fighting hard to get every little point.
And even over in that F2 points championship, it is incredibly close. Check out these top three. Actually, I should say top four drivers, only separated by less than 10 points apiece. Thomas Willershausen on top, Ben Summers, Thomas Duba, Mats Linden are all four of those drivers I was just talking about. And then big shout out to Don Peak hanging out inside the top five, although it is a narrow margin between himself and Tobias Harnvey. Eric Essery, Roberto Pingrazzi, Jonathan Jordan, Josephine Becker all competed here in this Drivers' Championship in what is the 12 rounds this season.
And then lastly, they have a Nations Cup that they race for. And while it may be over for the Drivers' Cup for the F1 standings, Spain and Lithuania, those top two in the points between Yeva and Valenteus, are still at loggerheads here for the title in the Nations Cup. We'll see if Valenteus can step ahead of Spain with this one, as the U.S. and Singapore are very, very close down there in third, as there's a lot of drivers from the U.S., but only a handful that are racing from Singapore, and that could be a tight one. United Kingdom could jump in there as well. So who comes away with third at the end of this 12-week season? Speaking of 12 weeks, Joey, why don't you go over a few of the details of the race?
Yeah, like you said, week number 12 here, the final round of the season. Going to be doing 28 laps around this Charlotte Roval. It is an open setup. If you've seen all the posts about the Lotus 79s, same thing goes for the 49s. It's incredibly welcoming. They share the fast setup, so if you're interested in coming and racing, please do join us out here. No spare cars, so if you pick up any damage, you got to live with it out there on the racetrack. And then in terms of the penalties, got a 17 incident drive-through and then 25 incident point limit on the disqualification, Joe.
Well, with all that said, we are in the last moments of qualifying right now. And it's going to be fun to watch these drivers try to get a quick lap, because it's not a very long lap. But even though passing is possible here, I feel like, Joey, this is one of those tracks where you do not want to be caught in the midfield if you unfortunately mess up your queue time.
100%. I think that track position is going to be key when it comes down to qualifying here, which we've got, call it about 5.5 minutes remaining right now. The drivers are still putting down their fastest lap times. But, Joe, I think what I'm most curious about, these first opening couple laps, like you said, if you're buried in traffic, you're going to be stuck back there. But there can be some huge accordion effects here. I got my fingers crossed that everybody makes it out the other side into lap number 2.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that as well. I feel like that is going to be job one on this one, is just getting through that. And it's a standing start. There's going to be a few drivers, no doubt, going back into the chicane on that standing start, which should be fun to watch. But this chicane on the backstretch also finds itself with a few issues. Drivers got to watch out for those turtles, as they like to call them in NASCAR, instead of the sausage curbs that you hear elsewhere refer to them as. Seb Tixier, his first timed lap. What's this one going to be as he gets ready to cross the line? And it's a 1:17.1. That's good enough for the front row right now.
Big shout out to Kevin Verbruggen, who holds that provisional pole position at a 1:16.99. That is the only car that has dropped down into that 1:16 lap time bracket. So watch Seb Tixier round out of what is turn number 4. You're going to see the drivers use all of that pavement out there. That is A-OK. It is not off the racetrack. And then up to this tricky turn number 6 apex. You see that little bit of elevation I had mentioned. Then through turn number 7. And then you got to actually roll it through what is turn number 8 out here. You can actually carry a ton of minimum speed. And then, Joe, it is foot flat to the floor up through the gears on the oval section.
Should see quite a bit of slipstreaming through here. Gary Ho on his second lap is out of the final chicane onto the main straight, and it's a 17.6 right up against the wall. An improvement does not take him higher than 8th, though.
Pretty fun watching Gary power slide that thing out of the final corner there and just barely get up to the wall and not nudge it. So here's the number 1 car. This is Andreas Valenteus. Remember, he has not put down a lap time yet. Everybody else has a 1:16.72. Seb Tixier just put down the fastest time. Let's see what Valenteus has on his first lap, a 1:16.73. 1/100th of a second behind. In fact, Joe, 9/1000ths of a second behind.
Top 3 are separated by 8/100ths of a second right now. It is very, very close. But Kaki has already done his 2 laps. Seb Tixier has already done his 2 laps. Valenteus now has an opportunity to stretch himself away from both of them. And we have seen in the past that the second lap does tend to be a little bit quicker.
Usually just a little bit more temperature in those tires can help kind of roll the speed through those first couple of corners, and you see Andreas trying to keep the wheels straight as he feeds the power into this Lotus machine here, carried around what is NASCAR turn number 2. Pick out the braking marker and watch how aggressive he is over the chicane curbing, bounces over the left side, bounces over the right side, all the way out, barely scrapes the wheels on driver's left, but it looked pretty clean in terms of that racing line.
I'm showing him 3/10, 4/10 quicker now as he comes around the banking of NASCAR 3 and 4 down into the chicane. Can he hold on to it through this final corner? That could make the difference. It'll be a massive gap if this is accurate, and it's a 16.5, 2/10 ahead of all others.
Nicely done from Andreas Valenteus, so he snags provisional pole position. Now we've got Jorge Nieva. His first lap, a 17.17, and if he picks up kind of the same thing that we saw Valenteus do, about 2/10 of a second, that could rocket him right up there to that second, third place. Just kind of have to see if he keeps it nice and tidy through this infield section.
He's the only driver besides Henry Morse that is able to improve. Morse is sitting in 10th right now. Not a name I'm familiar with, if I'm honest. So we'll have to try and dig up some info about this number 8 car, because he seems to be holding his own in today's qualifying session. Nieva showing an improvement by about a 10th or 2 coming up to the back straight chicane. What's it going to look like through here? Nice and smooth. A little bit of curb on the inside. As long as he got the traction down, he should be okay.
Now it really is just accelerating. This final chicane section, it is so inviting to take it too deep on the brakes. Let's see if he's able to get it stopped already. The weight on the nose shifts the weight over, transfers it up and over the curbs. Little bit slow on the acceleration phase, but still lays down a 16.86. It'll be the second row for Jorge, 4th place. Oh, talk about jumping the car, Henry Morse.
There's going to be a lot of wheels leaving the ground today, I'm pretty sure. Those curbs are nasty at the apexes, and they can jostle the car around. Thankfully, a lot of suspension travel on these machines, so hopefully that should help them out on that front as we're watching Ove Train just on practice laps. And, of course, the ticker hits 0, which means that the session is now officially done. So our qualifying is set. Our last race of the season. Who will get the honors, and can anybody beat Valenteus, who is on pole once again? Seb Tixier is going to give it his best. Starting next to him on the front row, Nick Kaki will be third with Jorge Nieva in P4. Then 5th goes to Kevin Verbruggen. To his outside, it'll be Xavier Sanchez. Henry Morse, as we said, great laps for someone not as familiar with, all the way up to 7th. Train Grade 8th, and Bill Tyler in 9th. John Olson will round out your top 10.
Then in 11th, we've got Gary Ho. In 12th is going to be Mitch Heller. And then it is going to get tricky because the cars from here on back are in the chicane. Rolly Wallbank, 13th. Diego San Pedro in 14th. Gary Quellen, 15th. Mikhail Zabala in 16th. Cam Porter, 17th. Jem Matson, 18th. Robert Plumley, 19th. And Kurt Clapper in 20th.
21st is going to be Aku Liski with Warren Roloff in 22nd. Eric Essery will be P23, and Henry Verumaki starting 24th today. Quarter century mark goes to Tobias Harnvey with Andre Bruno next to him. Then it's Grissinger in the 27th spot, followed by Ben Summers next to him. Samuel Moss starts in 29th, and Thomas Villershausen will be your 30th place, Joey.
And then 31st is Thomas Tuba back here. Brett Richards in 32nd. Ryan Mayer in 33rd. Mats Linden 34th. And then we got Jansen's back here in 35th. Don Peak 36th. And then I think we've got 37 cars in this split with Jay Walsh.
Yeah, it goes a long ways back. In fact, they're all the way onto the banking for the standing starts. So you can see them all the way back there. It's almost comical.
Well, and Joe, like I said, it's 12th place. I'm sorry, 13th. Lights are on.
All right, we're ready to go racing. Let's see how they go into Heartburn Turn, this first corner that can cause all kinds of heartburn for our drivers. As Valenteus is good off the line, the green flag is out, and it's a good start from Seb Tixier following him single file through that first corner, but look at how narrow it gets through here.
It's almost good that they kind of have the wiggle start because it would be so busy into turns number 1 and 2. Now they feed truly into this infield section. You see this entire field of 37 Lotus cars roll through the Roval.
Let's open up a little bit once again, but it still is tricky. Very single file here through the infield section. A little bit of elevation change as they crest over and then try to get the power down onto the oval portion. Going to be so critical. Who is going to be able to use the slipstream? Who can stay out of trouble as well, Joey, into this back straight chicane?
Who's winning so far is our leader, Valenteus. He has escaped over 3/4 of a second in front as we ride on board here with Bill Tyler. He's got that purple machine of Gary Ho directly in front of him. You see Gary kind of right in the middle of the racetrack right there. They both jump over that right side apex curb. What is turn number 11 and then almost nail that concrete wall. It is so crucial to be able to get the power down. And in fact, now it's John Olson taking a look at Bill.
That was a lot more well-behaved than I expected into that chicane.
No. Right in front of him.
Problems, though. It looks like Gary Ho may be involved. I see Trangrate having to cut the chicane, and Xavier Sanchez has to spin it back around to get going.
I think it was all Xavier Sanchez, and oh my goodness, Joe, knock on wood over here. I don't think that anybody got collected in that, and I think that Xavier was running about 5th place at the time. You don't often see that, especially in a chicane.
So, yeah, that is a big relief. I was going to say Harnvey was our only victim on the back straightaway, and a single-car incident as far as I can tell. Don't know if he got any help to send him off course. San Pedro here in 13th is kind of in a little bit of a tussle of his own. Rolly Wallbank, the regular, just in front of him, holding 12th, and behind Gary Quellen giving watch.
Up on the oval here, and it's a nice little draft pack. Said Rolly and then jump up directly in front. Gary Ho still got some company in that rear view mirror. He is once again defensive, but it's all about the exit. And in fact, Bill Tyler once again kind of trips over himself on the exit, so it gets choked up behind him. That is John Olson in that blue number 11. He moves to the middle of the racetrack, but remember, these cars, whenever they're on the oval section, they're on an acceleration phase. John really deep on the brakes into this final chicane. Can he get the car stopped? Yes, he does, but Bill Tyler's going to come back with an over-under.
Beautiful move by both of them to respond to what was happening. Olson tries to cut back underneath once again. Just about runs out of room, though, as the track narrows up through turn 2. Then it'll switch back into the infield once again behind them. Look at that battle between San Pedro and Wallbank. Everybody taking all different lines through the double apexer.
Yeah, and I think maybe even Zabala got a little bit of contact back there. Cam Porter's looking to make a move as we keep watching Diego San Pedro here in what is 13th place. Got a couple cars directly in front of him. Got a line of cars directly behind him. Joe, I'm looking. This is about a 10-car line back here as we get the replay of what happened to Tobias Harnvey on that opening lap.
He did indeed get some help, so it was not a single-car incident. He's going to be feeling a little bit hard done by on that one, but I think it looks like they both got away with it, as at least Harnvey is still continuing on without having visited pit lane for repairs. Back to Dieva in 4th position, chasing on Nikola Kaki. Both where they begin this race. In fact, the top 5 have not changed positions from the grid.
No, but Andreas is starting to put his foot down on this thing. I mean, we're only on lap number 4, and he's 1.5 seconds out front, and he just set down the fastest lap at a 16.99. Looks kind of bleak for everybody else right now.
Yeah, I think we're going to get a nearly perfect season from Valenteus as we got a replay on Brett Richards. That was hot into the chicane if there ever was a hot entry into there. And fortunately, that was too much. That sent him straight into the wall.
Very unfortunate there, and looked like he was able to grab a gear, but I see on timing and scoring he is stationary in pit lane, so unfortunate for that one. As this is Cam Porter. He's trying to get by Mikhail Zabala directly in front of him, and he's actually got company in the rearview mirror with Jem Matson. As he rolly wallbank. Oh no, we got problems coming up onto the oval. That was Gary Quellen, and you see the response on Cam Porter's face, kind of wincing up a little bit. He was able to avoid, but bad news for Gary.
Rolly wallbank, one of the victims in that one, unfortunately. Yeah, an unusual place to see an accident, and not a very good one as well. Everybody accelerating hard out of there and not wanting to lift.
Yeah, and I'm sure that we'll get a replay of it. It was, unfortunately, Joe, very, very sloppy with the internet connection out of Rolly wallbank is what kind of caused all of that choke point.
One of the pitfalls of racing on the internet that just really doesn't have an equivalent. So, what in the world is happening out here at this chicane?
Well, Warren's doing the right thing. Once he was stopped instead of pulling directly across the racing line, it just was odd that he was parked there on the racing line, wasn't it?
Yeah, a very awkward position for all involved. And for Akuliski, it has taken a chunk out of his nose, which is going to hurt his straight line speed, but that's only a problem on half the track.
Yeah, and I was just about to point this out. Nick Cockey got underneath Seb Tixier going out onto the oval, so he is overtaken for what is second place, that lime green helmet. So I'm going to be curious if Seb has a little bit more pace inside the car, if he can go up there and challenge Nick Cockey, or if Nick is just simply going to run away now.
Yeah, there we see the replay of Quellen getting turned and facing the wrong way. But man, what a battle for best of the rest here. Second, third, fourth, fifth are split by less than a second. And Bill Tyler is unfortunately out of this race. That wheel is not repairable.
Oh my goodness, look at how close Kevin Verbruggen is to the back of Nieva here going into turn 3 and 4. He's almost pushing on that gearbox of that number 7 car, and now he's kind of, call it about 2 car lengths back as you roll up and over the elevation. It's always tricky to get the weight exactly where you need it here as we take a look at these GSRC replays. See what happened to Bill Tyler. I think he's just going to smack the wall on the exit here with drivers left. Oh, yeah, that's exactly what happened. Joe, you just try to straighten it out as much as you can. Try to get the car driving forward, and you get a little bit too greedy sometimes.
Well, and not to mention, I mean, look at this car from the front. The wheels on the back do stick out a little bit more than the front, so you have to take that into account if you're getting right up to the wall, that you got to leave maybe an extra inch or two to keep yourself safe. So as we now watch Tixier versus Nieva versus Verbruggen, they're starting to lose touch with Cockey in front of them in second.
That's what I was curious about, is that who has that overall pace, and now a little bit of a slip up coming out of the chicane is going to allow Nieva to dive down the inside. It's going to be 3 wide. Verbruggen's going to take advantage on the inside. Now he gets the door shut on him. That was that funnel effect, and how everybody made it out the other side, I got no idea. We got a 4th car to the party. Hello, Henry Morse.
Just almost got unintentional rhinoplasty there, did Kevin Verbruggen. That was very, very close between the pair of them down to the apex, but they'll hold on. Henry Morse coming in with a splash here, up to 6 after starting this one 7th today, and with 3 cars he could potentially overtake if he gets a good run on one of these stretches onto the oval.
So this group right here is Tixier, Nieva, Verbruggen, and Morse. Let's see about into the brake zone. I've noticed that Seb Tixier has been struggling on the corner exit to be able to feed in the throttle right here, but this time actually does a nice job and is starting to accelerate up through the gears. The only problem is Seb Tixier is about 1.5, or I'm sorry, Nick Cockey is about 1.5 seconds up the road, so he has officially lost that slipstream effect.
That seems to be kind of the make or break for today's race. Cars again bounding over that apex curb there through the final chicane, down through Heartburn Turn. They still remain nose to tail, being led by Seb Tixier. I'm going to keep an eye on Cocky's times to see what it is in comparison to Valenteus, though I don't have my hopes up that someone could run him down.
No, and Joe, I think I found the main source of speed on Seb Tixier. If you actually look at the nose just above the number plate, there's a very handsome commentator painted on the nose. So there you go. He's even got a doggy tongue sticking out there. He's enjoying the ride in that clean air.
I love it. He does have fun with his paint schemes, and he's hoping that this one gives him a good result here today, but Nieva is making him work for it. All of them just clattering over that sausage curb and then onto the banking once again. Nieva and Verbruggen and Maurice putting on immense pressure for Seb Tixier, and we're not even halfway through this race.
100%. I was just about to make that point. If you're Seb Tixier right now, it's almost like you're in the middle of a cardio workout, right? And you look down and you're like, wait a sec, I'm not even halfway through this thing and I got everybody lined up behind me. Oh, this is going to be rough.
I know him, though. He's probably really enjoying this race and hope that it stays good, because bad luck has kind of plagued him the past couple seasons, really. And he gets good results every once in a while this season, but just hasn't had the rub of the green as of late. In the meantime, are they actually catching Cocky? Or no, I guess it is still about 1.7 seconds, but it just looked closer there for a moment.
So I think the thing that can kind of affect that here, Joe, is the lap traffic that we're probably going to run upon. And given that this place is not very friendly in terms of those passing areas, I don't think it'll affect our overall leader too much, because he's 4.5 seconds in front of second place. But to your point, I wonder how much Seb and company are going to be affected, or if Nicola is going to be able to essentially be held up and drop back into that party. Probably another 5 or 10 laps till we get to that point, but it'll be interesting.
I'm watching the lap times, and it's consistently 2 to 3 tenths quicker, although this time it was down to 1/10 difference. So Cocky is kind of catching, but not actually catching. He's lessening the distance on the laps each and every lap, and maybe stopping the bleeding a bit, but he's going to have to reverse it if he hopes to try and catch up to Valenteus and run down by 5 seconds, which might be a bit too much of an ask. San Pedro, in the meantime, is up against Mitch Heller. We saw Diego in a bit of a battle earlier on, but now he's switched gears and is on the attack with a different driver, but nothing he can do coming through turn 5 up into the blind turn 6.
And there you see San Pedro kind of run a little bit wide on the entry phase of that long sweeping right-hander. It's so tricky with just that tiny bit of elevation, kind of hides the apex around the corner. It could be very difficult as a driver to visually spot exactly what you need to do. But this part is simple enough, as Seb Tixier just lost another spot to Jorge Nieva, so now Tixier off of the podium.
And that was a mistake coming through the back straight chicane, unfortunately. Just Nieva outgunned him coming off the corner easily. Now, can he run away is the big question. He's definitely hustling the car from the body language of his machine. Here's the replay.
Just goes too hot. If we watch the replay in the top right here, bounces over the first one and just can't get it slowed down. You see how wide he is. I don't think that he actually made contact with the wall, but props to Nieva to kind of give him that extra racing room, knowing that he was going to need it on the exit there. Xavier Sanchez makes a move into turn number 1 on Zabala. Remember, Heike 360 here had that early spin on lap number 1. He's making his way back up through the field.
Yeah, still not even close to where he gridded up, as he's got 8 more positions to go if he wants to get there. There's some of that lap traffic I think you were talking about, as Janssens is still just trying to pick up whatever safety rating he can to wrap this one up. Tobias Harnvey also on a recovery, another driver that wound up with some issues getting clipped on lap 1, and he's only back up to 25th. I find it interesting, by the way, that Tixier seems to be struggling a little bit here because remember, he qualified second, but it seems like many of the cars behind him are a little bit quicker in race pace.
This is my analyzation as Verbruggen looks to the inside of Tixier, at least in turn number 1 over here. So he's starting to fall back into the clutches even more right now as we were watching Henry kind of round out and up onto the oval section here. But my analysis, Joe, Seb Tixier, one of the most aggressive drivers out there, and especially when it comes to that brake pedal. So he is charging into these, call it chicane sections, and if you nail it, great. The only problem is if you take it too deep into some of those chicane sections, it can heavily affect your exit. I think that's exactly what's happening to Seb Tixier, is that he's driving at 11 tenths, and it's actually costing him. Sometimes you got to drive slower in order to go faster.
So, some of these long acceleration zones, that makes sense. A track like this, Verbruggen, does he have something for him down into the chicane, or maybe it'll be out of the chicane once again? That's a lot of curve this time from Seb Tixier. He's got to watch out that he doesn't get a cut course penalty. Henry Maurice, in the meantime, with no place to go for Verbruggen. He actually has to check up. Henry Maurice has to go to the high side. That halts his momentum as well. It truly is a plug in the spigot here for Seb Tixier, just holding these two up.
I also wonder if there's maybe a little bit of damage on Tixier's car. I don't see anything visually, and I don't see anything wrong with the steering wheel, but he has kind of bounced those rear tires off of those walls a couple times, and we know how aggressive he likes to be, so maybe overheating the tires a little bit in combination with that, just making for a very, very difficult race car for Seb to kind of keep a grip on right now as we roll up and over turn 5, up over the elevation of turn number 6. Just got to focus out the visor right now, or I should say out the goggles of these Lotus 49 helmets.
Here's one to keep an eye on. Nieva last lap, 0.6 of a second quicker than Nick Kaki. So we could see a battle for P2 on once again. He is on a mission to chase him down.
That's a great catch. You're right. A 17.1 out of Nieva just in front of this group, compared to a 17.7 out of Nick Kaki, who's our second place runner. Looks like Xavier Sanchez has his next victim in the sights. It's Cam Porter.
Should be a fun one. Two popular streamers, especially here in the 49s. There's a look to the inside from Sanchez, but he does not take the apex away. He's given room, though. Tries to cut back underneath, and Cam says, no, I see that one coming, and blocks him.
A little bit of tripping over themselves there. I thought that Xavier was hoping for an over-under attempt, and Cam kind of parked it at the apex, kind of blocked that. So now we go down into this final chicane section. Let's see. Xavier really rolls it up and over that first apex curve, but Cam is able to put the power down coming out onto the start-finish straightaway here. So the duel moves on, and in fact, Kirk Clapper is starting to close it in. So if Sanchez doesn't make the move quickly, he's going to have some company in the mirror.
Kirk Clapper actually set a qualifying time this time. Still on a great run, up 4 positions from the start of this race. Coming back to Henry Maurice. Verbruggen seems to have lost ground on Tixier. Now he's on the defense instead, covering the inside down to the back stretch chicane. And Maurice, very slow on the way into there. That was strange.
It looked like he locked up the rear going in. And remember, these are the H-pattern gearboxes, and you got a rev match going down. If you lock up that rear axle, it can definitely provide a loss of traction, which is a little unnerving at corner entry.
Oh, speaking of which, Cam Porter has cut the chicane. He's going to have to give that time back. Sanchez goes by, and it looks like Zabala will go by. Is Kirk Clapper going to get him too? Yes, he is indeed.
The only problem, though, is I see that Kirk Clapper also has a slowdown penalty, at least on my side of things over here. So Cam Porter let him by, but I think it's going to have to come right back. And sure enough, here he is slow on the front straightaway. Cam Porter not quite close enough, though.
Yeah, he served that slowdown penalty.
Tricky.
He's gotten away with it, at least at this point. Back up to Kaki versus Nieva. Not quite there yet, but very darn close. 0.8 of a second between them. Kaki picks up the pace with a 17.3 and matches Jorge last time by.
plenty of time left, right? We got another, call it 13 laps in this race, and Nieva's cut down what was about 1.8 seconds, and then once he got in that clean air, just slowly started to chop that gap up. And now here he is, about 3/4 of a second, maybe hovering at the 1 second mark, depending on what section of the corner they're on. Yeah, on the front straightaway here, about 0.8 of a second. So he's firmly in the slipstream right now.
So close. 17.5 for Nick and a 17.6. So Jorge actually lost about 1/10 that last time. He's still trying his best. He's got there. I do get the feeling this lit a fire under the 4 because suddenly a little bit quicker coming up to the line each time. Let's see what he does in these last 12 laps or so of this race. They're still losing time on Valenteus. He's now up to about 6.8 seconds ahead of the pair as we check back in with Tixier. Verbruggen has shaken Maurice and Kevin. I'm trying to see if he can finally take that 4th spot.
It's just these little mistakes that are costing Tixier a ton of time. Just didn't get down to the apex and what is turn number 8, and it allowed Verbruggen that huge run out onto that straightaway. And now, when he's in the rear view mirror, you got to go defensive. Look at the slipstream. Look at the top end speed that Kevin Verbruggen has, the acceleration phase. I wonder if that comes down to a gearing difference as well. I know that these Lotus 49s, the drivers play around a lot with that. And once again, on the back foot is Tixier. Almost contact between the two. Tixier really struggling to try to put the power down. I think that's where his main loss of time comes from, is just not being able to drive the car forward down the racetrack.
Sorry, Henry Maurice just smacked the wall behind them. He was gaining with their battle, and he has had to give it all away. The car is in a bad state now. Well, there he is in the very background there. Can't really see it that far away, but I have a feeling we're going to see him lose a lot of time.
I went back and looked at it on my screen. It looked like a heavy impact. Remember when the Roval cars in NASCAR first came here and they were all blowing turn number 1? Pretty much what it looks like. Here's the replay. Just can't get it turned in. Boom! Right side impact. And I can confirm the steering wheel is not straight on Henry's car right now. It's a little bit off to the right, but I actually think he got away with it.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was basically going to be it. He'd have to come in for repairs to try and finish this one, but wow, impressive out of him. Regardless, right before that, it was getting spicy between Seb and Verbruggen as we come back to Nieva. He's got it down to 0.4 of a second. He cut into that gap once again. And here's that lap traffic. It's Don Pete just in front of them, along with Veremiraki and Villershausen in a battle for position.
I see Don Peak pulls over, so he ignores the orders from Joe to really mix up the front of the field here. Don gonna do a nice job and play nice on the playground. He doesn't want to get involved in everybody else's race, but I think that is just the first domino of many to come. Like you see up on top of that timing and scoring, 11 laps to go, lots more traffic.
I fear there may have been some trouble for Don. He's missing his nose on his car, so no wonder he pulled off to the side, not wanting to hold them up. Scott was going to try and use this to pull away.
I am so surprised that Nick Cocky did not get a slowdown penalty right there in that back straightaway chicane. He pretty much blew the second apex, went jumping over it, and somehow Barney was like, yeah, no, that's no big deal. Keep on chugging out there, and now got the lapped car to get out of the way as well.
That was Villershausen. They were able to carry on their battle. Glad to see they won't hold up our leaders, but still be able to decide their own fight as their momentary truce is now over. Nicola Cocky in second. Jorge Nieva in third. He wants that P2. Has been chasing him. Is right up there as the car wiggles going out wide. He is definitely pushing it.
Nieva is just right there, applying the pressure to the rear view mirrors, trying to get Nick Cocky just that half a car width off of the racing line. Nick, really nice job to tuck it down to the inside right there.
That was Ryan Mayer that we saw off to the side of the track. Sorry. and thankfully it looks like he's going to be able to stay out of the way of everybody. This is tight coming up to the chicane. Nieva is right there, but not able to try an attack on his way in. Up and over the curbs, and now up onto the banking once again. A little bit of a shorter blast coming up to the next chicane.
Crucially, though, what I see directly in front of Nick is two lapped cars, and they're not going to catch him at the start-finish line right here. It is going to be going into the turn 1, 2, 3, 4 Roval section. This is going to get tricky on how these leaders have to navigate those cars. This is that funnel section going through turn number 2 right here. A little bit of a downhill into this fast, sweeping, double apex right-hander. You have to treat them as two separate corners. Nick Cocky really wide, and you see Nieva just eat up all of that ground.
He thought there was an opportunity, but Cocky cut him off. Now we come up to those two lapped cars. Are they going to be able to pull out of the way, or will they be a hindrance? This is going to be a critical corner exit. This could be a problem if it holds up Nick off of there, but it looks like he is able to get clear track and moves underneath.
Yeah, it was nicely executed there by Nick Cocky in that lime green helmet. However, we do still have that one lapped car going into this back straightaway chicane, and typically where we see big speed differences in the slow speed sections of the racetrack. Looks like they both are actually able to navigate through. Lap car is going to stay nice and high. Nice job all around.
I think what's wild to me is riding on that onboard, how early they are braking. I mean, they're practically braking when still coming out of turn 2 as Kevin finally gets by Seb.
So Seb slips down to what is 5th place on the board here, but I think all he's got to do is keep it going forward at this point. You know, yes, you've lost the positions, you've lost the track position, but you're still hanging out inside the top 5. Get it to the checkered flag.
Only 8 laps to go, so getting quite close to the end at this stage. Kevin Verbruggen is not out of the woods. Stixier is still there. See if he can get a mistake out of him. It is worth noting, I heard some information behind the scenes that Seb may have only put in about an hour of practice before this one, so he might not have figured out all the tricks that some of his rivals have.
Well, I also heard, Joe, pre-race, Seb was also, I think he was, all out of bubble gum? So he was only there to lose safety rating.
Exactly. He's definitely making some jokes on this one, but so far so good. Crossing fingers and knocking on wood, he can at least make it home from here. Top 5 should get him some decent safety rating on this one. Valenteus, though, 7.3 seconds now. This is not the blowout that we've seen in the past out of him, but certainly one that shows the kind of speed that he has shown all season long.
He's out to a nice commanding 7-second lead right now over Nick Cocky, and he's just pretty much on railroad tracks. Nothing has really phased this driver at all. I had mentioned very, very early in the race he was the only driver in that 1:16 lap time bracket. Well, that has stayed. He's got to deal with a few variables spinning off in front of him on the racetrack. I don't think that'll affect him, but that last lap time, 16.73, also happens to be the fastest lap of the race. I mean, that's a quarter of a second faster than anybody else.
Nieva getting very close. He's got to be careful here because I'd like to see him keep up an impressive record. His lowest finish this season is a 6th place. I hate to see him throw it away. Yes, it's the last race of the season, but finishing 6th or better every single race is just, I mean, that is hugely impressive.
It is very impressive, and that was a close one going out onto that oval section. I thought that Nieva was firmly there, but Nick Cocky was like, no, this just isn't a passing zone, so therefore the door is going to get closed.
Of course, I say that, and my mind immediately goes to, well, you know, Valenteus was 2nd or better, but he also didn't show up to a lot of races this season. But just enough for him to claim another title, it looks like. Meanwhile, the battle rages on. That was a bit of an interesting entry there from Nieva as the car is very sideways on the way into 3.
Fast Hands, though, was able to save it, and looks like San Pedro is once again in a battle. it is Mitch Heller still. So these two have been locked together literally this entire race long. They've both gone up a couple positions from others fallen out of the, call it top 10 in front of them. But great job, one, from Mitch Heller, who's leading this two-pack, and two, from San Pedro to keep the pressure on. But they both have nearly identical lap times over and over and over.
Love this fight that we've been getting to see as we check out Zabel. I think just getting by Sanchez now. So that was an overtake for 13th position. Pretty decent sized field for this one, especially for such a short lap. But it's like we're only going to get 31 drivers to the checkered flag as it stands right now. Oh, and Ove Trangere just came into pit lane. That might be 30 now.
Yeah, and I actually see him off the racetrack, so he had a large incident, and I think it happened on the back straightaway chicane as we're watching Cam Porter out here. And actually, looking at track grades, it was a very uneventful incident. The second impact was actually more eventful than the first, but the damage was already done at that point. So
right as I say it, we lose yet one more driver, unfortunately, which promotes all behind him up one more right at the very end. Akuliski still missing a bit of bodywork on the front of the car. Up to 16th, though. So he has made improvements from where he gridded up. Maybe it could have been a little bit more from the Finn. Next one up the road, Kurt Clapper, about 3 and some change in seconds up ahead of him. So I don't know that he's going to be able to run down the number 18. Right now he's focused behind with Robert Plumley chasing. No, back to Seb Tixier once again. And Kevin Verbruggen is there. But that is not Henry Morse behind them. That is a lapped car.
You had been mentioning how difficult it was to pass, you know, and I guess, yes, the Charlotte Roval is kind of considered one of those racetracks, and data backs it up. I'm looking for our biggest mover right now. It's actually Mats Linden, all the way back there in what is 24th place. He's up 10 positions, but we've also had 6 or 7 cars drop out of this race. Matt's qualified all the way back there in 34th place. So it goes to that storyline that you made. It is a very difficult place to pass, as Seb Tixier almost got the pass done on Kevin Verbruggen back into what is 4th place.
Kevin right in the rim there, going around the outside to carry the speed. And that keeps him in that P4, up and over 6 once again as we watch the onboard telemetry of Seb Tixier. Even has the foot cam down there so that we can see how the handiwork is done, or the footwork, I guess you could say. And then up through the banking they go. He's a little bit too far back from Kevin this time.
I think the only thing that'll really swing that is if Kevin blows the corner here, but we know how good Verbruggen has been all throughout this entire race, and once again just nails those apexes, is able to feed on the throttle exactly where he needs to, and accelerate out of the corners. John Olsen going to give it a go here down on the inside of Gary Ho. Gary leaves him room and now jumps over that second apex curb. We'll see what Barney has to say, but no position change.
He's got a black flag right now. He's being told to give the time back. Let's see how long it takes him. So far, he's not given back the time according to my screen. He's going to have to eventually, or else he'll get a true stop-and-go black flag out of this. He still hasn't given it back.
And remember, the drivers have that delta on top of their screen, so they know exactly, oh, I can give a 10th back here, I can give a 10th back there, and everybody has their own method of trying to give it up, and looks like Gary Ho is able finally to get rid of it.
He did, but I think Seb Tixier got rid of Verbruggen. He is down in 6th position. What has happened here? It looks like it was in the infield, I think. So unusual placement for the number 3 to give up the ghost, but you have to stay on it the entire 24 laps, 28 laps.
Yeah, and here we go. We're going to see exactly what happened. So Verbruggen getting challenged, dives it down, and you couldn't really see it right there, but he hits the apex curb in what is turn number 5. And turn number 5 is the right-hander where you really are carrying the speed. It upset the platform of the car, and all of a sudden, the tires were off of the ground and into the guardrail, or I should say the tire bundle he went.
He didn't get damage out of that one. He's got 13 seconds down to Gary Ho, so I think he's in a decent position. Also, credit to Gary Ho for a pretty good race out there that he's run so far, up 4 spots from where he started, and has definitely been in quite a few battles from when we've turned the camera to him. Jorge Nieva versus Nick Kaki. This one has come down to less than a second for a long time, but Nieva just can't seem to make those last few steps to overtake him.
And the opportunities are really running out. He's got a decent run, but doesn't dive it down this lap. We're going to be coming to white flag here. So in terms of those passing opportunities, Joe, I mean, there's what, 2, maybe 3 left?
Yeah, the chicanes really are the best spots, maybe into turn 1. Oh, he's right on top of him here. Lapped car stays out of the way, but it's still not good enough for Nieva, although he gets him off the racing line. He could cut back. No, he runs into the side of him. He's pinched into the wall. He can't go anywhere. Both cars damaged. Where is Seb Tixier? There he is, coming up behind them with the white flag out. Can he get by? He'll get Nieva. Maurice goes by. Nikola Kaki about 2.5 seconds up the road.
Could this be the redemption run on the last lap from Seb Tixier? Nick Kaki is still about 2.5 seconds up the road. Valenteus is just cruising out onto the back Roval section right now. He's got 14 seconds and change.
I feel for Jorge. I don't think
100%.
he did anything wrong in that one. Just could not avoid what was unfolding in front of him as Kaki got a little bit too hot into the corner. Valenteus, in the meantime, going to be looking like 15 seconds now that those behind him have tripped over each other. So a bigger gap than we saw for much of the race from the number 1 appropriately on his car. Not only is he champion once again, but he will go for nearly every single race he entered with a win, including here at Charlotte, victory for Valenteus.
Some wiggles and a victory smash on the wall there. Nicely done from that number 1 car. Nick Kaki will be able to hang on to what is second place. This is the battle for the podium. Henry Moore trying to get it deep on the brakes. Can he do an over-under on Tixier and steal it at the line? It looks like he's able to. Henry Moore's up into what is 3rd place.
By 0.024 of a second. So close to a podium for Tixier. He's got to be gutted with that one. But Maurice, he is one to watch out for. That was incredible, this race out of him, as we saw Gary Ho take a nice 7th today. Nieva did manage to get a top 5, so he keeps up that 6th or better run all season long, but so close to a podium on this one. And in the end, we're only seeing 17 cars get to the line for all 28 laps.
Yeah, I think that's 17 on the lead lap here. Cam Porter crosses the line in what is 14th place. I think we just got a couple more. There's Robert Plumley coming across the line. I think I see about 26 took the checkered flag here, and to your point, about 17 on the lead lap.
So let's go through our finishing order for today's race with Audrius Valenteus taking the win. Nikola Kaki going to come home second, a distant second, after a last lap tangle with Jorge Nieva. But it was Henry Mourice who rounded out our podium finishers from 7th on the grid, beating out Seb Tixier by 1/4 of a second. Jorge Nieva did get P5, Kevin Verbruggen 6, and Gary Ho P7. From there, it was John Olsen in 8th, Diego San Pedro with an excellent run up to 9th, gaining 5 positions. 10th goes to Mitch Heller.
Then in 11th, we've got Jem Matson. Xavier Sanchez returns to what is 12th place position after having that early lap number 1 incident. Mikhail Zabala back here in 13th. Cam Porter in 14th. Kirk Clapper 15th. Aku Liski in 16th. Robert Plumley, the last of the 17 cars to finish on the lead lap. Then we have Eric Essery, Warren Roloff, and Ben Summers rounding out your top 20.
21st goes to Michael Grissinger, Tobias Harnvey in 22nd, and Mats Lind in 23rd. From there, Henry Verumaki is going to be 24th, Don Peak in 25th. Last one lap down was Thomas Villershausen, 26th. Andre Bruno was 27th with a DNF, unfortunately. Janssens is going to be 28th. Trangray, in fact, this is all DNFs from here on down that you can see all the way to 37th position with Jay Walsh. So a lot of drivers getting eaten up by this track today. But one that did not get eaten up by the track, at least not quite, was Seb Tixier. Seb, talk to us about that finish. It looked very, very close. Have you raced with Henry before? Because he's a new name to us.
I think he was there like last three races, and he has a good pace. Yeah, I mean, my car was damaged, and I was really struggling turning right, and the last chicane start right, and I did not manage to get it right.
So how long was that damage on the car? Because we were a bit surprised at how outpaced you were by those behind you from early on.
But it's simple. Every time I hit a wall, I lost a position. So the first time was the infamous bonk at the outside before the oval. So this one is a classic. And I lost my position to Nico, and then several laps later, same place with Jorge, and with Kevin. I think it was the outside exit of the first chicane. I hit the wall on the inside and it passed me. So I'm like, okay. And every time we get worse to turn right. So I was really struggling a lot of turns. But I'm quite happy of my mind punt on Kevin. Sorry, Kevin. I saw him going like, oh, he's not going to make it. He's going to fly somewhere. But yeah, it worked. It was just a fake move.
So you've also changed your livery again. We noticed a nice Joey on the front with I guess a doggy tongue on there. Do you count this one a success?
Yeah. Last time was not a success at Monza, but it was not there. So maybe you need to be there. And so basically I needed to put a doggo and Joey, but there's not enough space. So I merged them together. It's okay because Joey is a good boy.
Hey, he is a good boy. He definitely is. I think you did an impressive job considering the damaged car. Sorry it wasn't a podium, but it definitely gave us a lot of thrills today, sir. That was Seb Tixier, finished fourth. Hopefully Joey can compose himself because he's going to have to talk to Nick Lakaki, who also had a wild finish.
Let's get Nick Lakaki in here. First of all, congratulations on the second place finish.
Hello guys, can you hear me?
Yep, we got you loud and clear, Nick.
Perfect. I changed my phone, so I have to reconfigure everything. Yeah, so, it was a surprising race for me.
Yeah, the first part of it seemed relatively simple. You got out in front, we're trying to chase down Valenteus, but then it got busy once Nieva got in your mirror, didn't it?
Yeah, I am very surprised about getting in a podium today because, you know, Audrius in this kind of track, it's impossible to follow. I was expecting much more difference on his pace anyway. I was thinking I was going to get 1 second a lap, something like that, but it was less than that, so I was kind of surprised. And on my back I had Jorge, which has been faster than me the whole season, and he had more practice compared to me this week, so I knew that I was a sitting duck, more or less, and I also knew that I was going to get some problem on the tires because of overheating, because I chose a pretty aggressive setup, and I hoped to be as smooth as possible, or I hoped for a miracle of weather or maybe the mechanics getting better tires this time, but I knew I was going to get a pace slowing down basically during the race.
And then my last question here for you, Nick, is talk us through that incident at the final couple laps there, or I should say on the last lap with Nieva. What was your take on it?
Yeah, I already apologized to him before the interview, and but as I told him, it was a mistake, probably due because of overheating, because I just simply braked more or less in the same place, but this time I locked. So very tiny lock, but it's more than enough to completely miss the apex and everything. I tried when I realized I was going to be wide. I tried just to try to avoid the slowdown, so I just jumped the second curb, and I was 100% focused about keeping the car straight. But the car bottomed out, and when it does that, it's simply impossible. And at that point, I lost completely the control of the car. So I was just trying to get off the wall and hoping that Jorge was going to be as smart as usually is, but this time he was probably way too close to me, and he couldn't avoid me, and it deserved second place, but at that point we was tangled, and we were lucky to finish the race, and it's too bad for him. He didn't get a podium. He deserved a lot.
Yeah, it was a shame to see you guys kind of tangle up there in those final closing stages of the race. But I got to say thank you for coming out and racing with us. Congrats on that second. Anybody you want to give a quick shout out to?
Yeah, just all the community as usual, because we did it. We say it a lot, many times, and maybe people is not going to take it seriously, but it really is a very the best community out there. And we also have the best broadcasting out there, so it's kind of a great match. So see you next season. I will try to be a little bit more consistent and copy what Jorge does, because it's kind of my aim from the last few seasons, but I'm still lacking some of his skill.
That was Nick Cocky coming home in second place, but making the broadcast crew blush a little bit over here, giving us all these compliments.
Hey, we're not immune to bribes over here, I'd say, but we've got Cam Porter, who saw firsthand a wild accident going onto the oval. We saw your expression. It looked like it was not fun to have to try and weave through that.
Well, yeah, I saw it happening directly in front of me. Like, uh-oh, I'm dead. Thankfully, I was able to avoid it. I did get a 0x car contact, so maybe some netcode contact. Thankfully, I didn't have any damage and continued on. And then later, when Xavier got up to me, I was telling myself before the race and during the race, it's like, I just want to race my own race, have a safe race, don't fight anybody. And then Xavier got up to me, and I was like, I'm not even going to fight this guy. But then I stupidly did, and missed my break point, and got the chicane, which gave me a big slowdown, and I lost a couple of positions. Thankfully, I made one back, so ultimately I only lost one position overall from that. So good race for me, and thrilling, fun battle with Kurt Clapper. Shout out to Kurt Clapper. We are almost always on the same pace, and he's a very conscientious driver. So thanks, buddy, for doing a great job out there.
Yeah, we can see in the replay right now you fighting up against him. So talk to us about passing here, because you would think with these long oval portions, the slipstream, there would be opportunities, but it looked like it was a bit tough to get by people.
Yeah, it was. I was following Mikhail for a while, and he kept making little mistakes, and I was able to hang with him for a bit. But yeah, I just could not capitalize on any of his little bobbles that he was making. But again, we were on a very similar pace, so really difficult to set up a pass. And I passed Kurt simply because he made a mistake through the final chicane. So, but he stuck with me the entire time, and Xavier, who is significantly faster than me, was able to set up a pass in the chicane on the back straight. And yeah, I should have just backed out and let him go, because I know he's significantly faster than I am.
Sometimes that's just the way the cookie crumbles. But again, excellent race out there, and hopefully we'll see you next season.
Thanks, guys. Sure will. See you then.
Cam Porter, definitely a fan favorite here on the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legends series. But As we said, we're wrapping season, so a big thank you to the community for bringing us back for another one of coverage. And thanks to the team today, Joey, Christian, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. Lotus 49 should be back on June 21st at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. But up next, we've got the IMSA Vintage Series going to Le Mans, and it's the historic version without the chicanes. That's going to be fun at 1 p.m. Eastern this afternoon. Be sure to check out our other broadcasts listed here. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.
This is iRacing.